Hey guys, welcome back. So I've been thinking about my to-do list and some Bible verses about it, and so I stopped for a minute and looked up the verses, see what the Bible has to say about have to do, things that we have to do. So here's some of the references. I think I missed the first one in Judges, but it'd be Judges 18:14, 2 Samuel 16:20, 1 Kings 17:18, 2 Chronicles 35:21, Matt 8:29. Speaking of the casting the devils into the swine, what do we have to do with thee? Has thou come to torment us before our time? And then the same story in Mark 5:7, Luke 4:34. And then Acts 9:6, speaking of Apostle Paul being knocked down by the light. And he asked, Lord, what must I do? What must I do? The Matthew one, what do we have to do with thee, as thou come to torment us? What do we have to do with? There's a couple mentions in the Old Testament about kings are asking their subjects, or the subjects asking the kings, probably in rebellion, what do I have to do with you? Probably nothing. If you don't want to deal with the king, just leave the country. You have to deal with somebody, but not with him. Same goes for business, I guess. If you don't like my business, you don't have to deal with me. You can go to another business. I'll even help you find one if you need. So, growing up, though, I remember if Dad had a thing to do, he'd tell us, this is what you have to do. And if you didn't do it, you got punished. And it was negative, and it was reinforcement. So, the having to do something, for me, and I know a lot of other people too, we get this this tension in our chest, this the panicky feeling, the feeling of being doomed to failure, being overwhelmed, and then procrastinating and getting nothing done after all, which really sucks because it starts a cycle of feeling the defeat and then being defeated, and it just reinforces itself again and again and again. So that's not really good. So having that mental pathway between the things that I have to do and the negative reinforcement of feeling like a failure and then failing, feeling failure, failing, it just keeps building that habit, that mental pathway again and again, and after a while it becomes a reflex, basically. Just the idea of thinking, well, what's on my to-do list? What do I have to do today? It's like, oh no, failure. But then the other day I realized that well, I don't really have to do it, right? But I have it there to do in case I choose to do so. So even the to-do list, even the things that we have to do is an opportunity. So I really like that. I want to get my head wrapped around that because I'm sure it'll help me, and I hope it's something helpful for you too. So your to-do list, I don't write mine down. I'm sure most of us have one mentally or otherwise, but I keep a tab. These are the handful of things that I've got to do. And sometimes it's things like, if your roof leaks, you have to fix your roof or you'll get a wet house. And then that can cost lots of money once you start incurring the damages that happen. So there's some things we're kind of forced to do. We're kind of forced to make an income for a family or end up beside the road in a cardboard box. But in the morning when we get up, if we're blessed enough to do something we love, it's an opportunity to get up and get some things done that are fun, that are enjoyable. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around that concept of the things that I have to do. They're an opportunity to do it if I choose so. And maybe I have a list. I can pick a different thing today if I feel like that more than the other one. But it's pretty crazy. I mean, the people that I've known that have been the most successful people that I know, they view their work as an opportunity to do something. And they enjoyed it and they loved it. and it actually seemed to rub off on the workers where the workers enjoyed it. So if you enjoy your work as a boss, your workers will probably enjoy working with you, and so will your kids. And if your kids see you passionate about your hobby or your work or whatever, they'll be more likely to follow in your footsteps because someone they admire enjoyed something, doing something that they love to do. So I want to be that for my family. But in the Bible verses, there's one more here I want to show you guys. And I'm going to try and read my horrible handwriting because I'm not a fancy editor. I had put it on the screen. So the last one is Hebrews 4:13. And this has been on my mind for many, many years. This verse is easy to read and run right across it. And here's the verse, Hebrews 4:13. Neither is any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open unto the eyes of with whom we have to do. With whom we have to do. You can put off reconciliation with your Creator. Maybe an hour, maybe a day, maybe a year, maybe for a long, long time. But there's this old joke that there's nothing sure but death and taxes. Well, maybe the rich don't pay their fair share of taxes, but they die. In the end, they all die. So we have a, very high probability, higher than 99% chance of dying. So if you are falling under the conviction of making things right with your Creator, please don't put it off any longer than necessary. I remember when I came into Christianity and I thought that giving my life to the Almighty would be, obviously letting God have control of everything. So that I don't like being controlled. I'm an independent person and I like to be self-sufficient to a fault. And it seemed like a bondage of sorts to be submitted to the Almighty God. But now, all these years later, I've been a Christian more than half my life at this point. And I'm learning, practicing, surrendering my everything to my Creator. But oftentimes, being a Christian actually results in having more choices than you would have if you're not a Christian. And the freedom that goes with being a Christian is a freedom of choice. So today, I have a couple options when I'm, making a decision, going about my life. On one hand, I have my own selfish desires, and on the other hand, I can take on the nature of God and act according to, Christ, how Christ would act, how Christ acted out an example for us during the years that he spent on earth. Christ was perfect. He was a perfect example. So it's important for us to know the nature of God, to know the nature of Christ, and ask the question, what does God really want from us, and how can we live pleasing in his sight? And then we have more than one option. We have our option, we have God's option. We can choose one or the other. And there's a verse, I think it's in Joshua, we choose on the right hand or the left hand, blessing or cursing. And then in Joshua, he says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And if that decision is on your mind, if you're falling under conviction that you need to wrestle this out with God, maybe like Abraham wrestled all night with the angel. Abraham had been traveling across the deserts to meet his brother that he had betrayed. He betrayed his brother, and he knew that he had to make the confrontation. He knew he had heard that his brother was coming to meet him, if I remember correctly. 400 men came to meet him across the desert, and he knew that he was likely to die. You shouldn't betray someone in your own family and not expect consequences, and he was expecting the consequences. So he upon hearing the news of the soldiers coming to meet him, sent his family and his herds across the river for their safety, and he stayed on the other side. And the angel appeared to him, and he asked the angel's blessing, and he was going to get that blessing no matter what. So somehow they started their wrestling, and he wrestled with the angel all night until the morning light came up. And it strikes me how determined he was. He was determined to wrestle this out to the very end. He wanted God's blessing, and he knew that he'd done things that didn't merit God's blessing, but he wanted it anyway, and he was willing to physically wrestle with God, or with the angel God, all night long until he was given the blessing. And I think that's a good example for us. This verse here, neither is any creature that is not manifest in his sight. We're manifest and open. We're an open book in the eyes of God. Everything is naked and open to the eyes of with whom we have to do. So we have to do with him at some point. You can ignore it and hope this problem goes away, but it's not going to go away. So there's a better life. It's so many things about being a Christian are opposite than what we think they would be. The bondage is freedom. The things that we have to do are opportunities. We don't have to do them. You can just stay in bed all day. Your life wouldn't get any better. And the other thing is too that we need to take responsibility upon ourselves to become better persons throughout the walk of our life. So I really appreciate Dr. Jordan Peterson and his teachings about taking on responsibility and keep moving forward to be a better person, to have a path forward in life, to know that these are the steps that I need to take to make my life better. And he says, start by cleaning your room. Make one place in your life where you're safe. And if everything outside goes bad, you get to come back here and find your footing and start all over again. So I thought about this, how Christianity is, we're like, oh, I belong to God. I no responsibility. I'm giving God all the responsibility for my life. That might seem like that on the outside, but if you're not a Christian, taking on responsibility for yourself, for your actions, for your family, for your reactions, for personal responsibility, and keep growing the responsibility. God has called us out to be better every day, every month, and always keep fighting forward. We're called to become better, to keep learning of Him, keep teaching of Him, and onward and ever upward. So those are some things that are on my mind. This is the scary bit here. Naked and open, and with whom we have to do. You can forestall this, but He's still going to be there. And I know it's not a popular teaching, but we're called to be bigger and better and stronger and wiser and more humble. Also more humble. The other day I had to come face to face with something very arrogant that I did a long time ago, and I'm very sorry. And it reminded me that I try not to make mistakes in life. One joke that I make sometimes is, I don't like apologizing to people, or I'm scared to apologize to people, so I try and live in a way so I don't have to apologize. And that in itself is arrogance, that idea right there. But so we need to live humbly. Maybe some of us with our personalities and natures end up apologizing a lot more than other people that walk carefully and try not to offend, try not to be wrong, try not to try not to get in a situation where we have to apologize. Be a little bit more sensitive about how we act and react. But then the ones of us that are honest and acknowledge our mistakes, take responsibility, we end up apologizing more. So it'll hurt for me to apologize if I only have to do it every now and then, but I want to be honest and open and be the way that the kingdom of light is. The light shines into the darkness and lights everything up. There's no secrets, no need to keep a secret. But it's pretty frustrating too sometimes, because the Bible verse says, "The light shone into the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." Well, I was on that side too once, and I understand that it's not easy. One other thing to think there is, there are some verses in the Bible. Our Mennonite church ministers often quoted a verse, "The fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom." And I looked it up. I don't think it exists, but the concept, I believe, is there. So you might want to do some research on that. But I remember one day, not a month or two ago, I was thinking about something along the fear of God, and I was very struck by. I was struck, sort of like lightning passed through my body, and I tried to stop for a moment and comprehend the information that I received, but I still don't understand that verse. There's something about the fear of God that is the beginning of wisdom, and it's a lot of wisdom. It's very fundamental wisdom, how we see the world, how we learn about things, and it affects the science of the science surrounding the natural world. It affects how we research into vitamins, how we research into soil health, how we research into genetics, personalities, how we research into medicine, and all these things that, if we don't acknowledge our Creator God, that stood outside the boundaries of time, he stood somewhere that didn't exist, in a time that was not, and with his word created everything that there is. That's hard to comprehend. But it remains that we don't get something from nothing. This is made out of metal dug from the ground. It came from somewhere. If you have empty space, you don't just magically get dirt and minerals and life. So it's a lot easier to believe in a Creator God that spoke everything into being, because he existed outside the boundaries of time and outside the boundaries of space and gravity and all the laws of physics that we know. So anyway, guys, that's my encouragement. Don't shy away from wrestling with God. Wrestle with God. One more thing. Go look up the meaning of the name Israel. Israel was the one that wrestled with the angel all night. And the name Israel literally means he that wrestles with God. And I believe it's a Christian's gift. Anyway, someone that likes to think things through, and really try and grind out the finer understandings of everything, really. It is our gift to wrestle with God, wrestle right and wrong, wrestle with different situations, wrestle to understand, what God really wants from us. And it's quite the privilege, it's quite the honor to be able to wrestle with the great questions of life. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it. I hope this was an informative 19 minutes or so. Thank you guys for watching. I covered a lot of things I've been thinking about, maybe a little bit randomly here. But this is the verse I'm going to leave you with. I'll read it one more time. Hebrews 4:13, "Neither is any creature that is not manifest in his sight, in the sight of God. But all things are naked and open unto the eyes of with whom we have to do." So go deal with it. Take on responsibility and be a better person. Figure out the steps you need to take and do them. Your life will get better every day, every week, and you'll be able to look back in a year and say, wow, life has greatly improved. And I believe that all of this starts with giving your life to Christ. And the Bible tells us that Well, the Bible isn't for perfect people. It tells us that, um, sorry, I had a verse in mind before from, uh, all who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. All of us. Doesn't matter what you've done. You might think that your sins are different from other people's sins, or that you've got sins and I don't have sins. Yeah. Don't worry, everybody else has the same sins as you've got. Even the most exotic sin you've ever committed is an ordinary sin on average. Everyone else has got the same sins. Some of us maybe didn't do all of the sins, or maybe we did different sins, but we've all fallen in the same ditch. So don't think of yourself more highly than necessary. Realize that we're all put on with the same clothing of flesh, and we all fight with the same desires and all the same sins. So some of us, maybe we keep them hidden better or something. I don't know. But the grace of God is sufficient unto all of us. And it's our job to take responsibility and keep fighting forward. Take responsibility for your soul's salvation. The very thought that God put in your mind to submit and give your life to Him, that's a sign. Now you know. And all that call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Not halfway saved, all the way saved. So put your confidence in the Lord and give your life to Him and start working on it. Life will get better. There is a pathway forward, and it's the greatest blessing, the greatest pathway forward. Learn to know the laws of God and pray and understand what they mean and why they're there. They're there for us. They're there to let us know not to make the mistake. They're there to keep us from getting tripped up or falling before we fall. And as a father protects his children with rules and things. I mean, I teach my kids don't go on the road because I don't want them to get killed. So I tell them, don't go on the road. So if the Bible says don't do something, it's there for you. And if you decide to do so, you'll reap all the blessings of it. If you don't, you get all the consequences. Some or all of the consequences. So be wise and learn to fear the Lord with great respect. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to let you go, and I hope I have cleared everything off my heart for you to see. See ya.